Well, big news coming there. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announcing to the nation that the 3 farm laws that his government had taken out have been repealed. They have been withdrawn. He explained that this process will be initiated in the winter session of the parliament, which is upcoming. And he went on to say that the government had an honest intention, with all its sincerity, with all the transparency. The government time and again reached out to various farm unions, various farmers, small and big, across the country. But there was still a small chunk of farmers which were not happy with the farm laws, and they too matter to the government. And therefore, Prime Minister Narendra Modi there announcing that the 3 farm laws have been repealed. Arun Sharma joins us for more. Arun, big announcement by the Prime Minister there. The 3 farm laws have been repealed. He also said that we have to have a new beginning of understanding each other, the government as well as the farmers. And of course that his government tried to reach out to all farmers across the country. And while they did get a lot of support for these farm laws, there was still a small segment which was not happy with them. And therefore, his government has decided to initiate the process of repealing these 3 farm laws.
Announcement by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and announcement of repealing all these 3 farm laws that were, passed last year. And we also know this fact that how in this last 7 years, the government has ensured that how can, a better ecosystem can be made for the farmers so that their income can be doubled. Now, we know this fact that right from the beginning, when he came to power in 2014, he clearly mentioned this point. Prime Minister Modi clearly said this point, that the government is pro-poor and pro-farmers specifically. And various initiatives have been taken by the government to ensure that how the farmers' income can be doubled by 2022. In that context, we have seen that how an agriculture infrastructure fund of 1 lakh crore has been created so that agri-infra related sector can be strengthened in tier 2 town, in far-flung areas, in villages and small towns as well. So an agri-infra fund of 1 lakh crore was also created by the government, whereby various farmers organizations, small farmers organizations can come and participate and can create a better infrastructure related to agri. Second, we have seen how under the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, more than 1.5 lakh crore has been transferred in the bank accounts of the farmers of our country, specifically the small farmers. I mean, more than 10 crore farmers have been benefited from this PM Kisan Samman Nidhi. And, we have also seen that how these 3 farm laws that were passed by the government, the intent was clear, that how to double the income of the farmers by 2022. That ensured that how can, and also on top of these farm laws, the focus was also that there was a commitment from the government that MSP will not be removed. On the contrary, we have seen that how the government has increased the MSPs in last 2 years, even after passing the farm laws. So MSP was gradually increased. The government procurement of farm produce is concerned, that we have seen that was at a record level as far as the procurement of government is concerned, as far as the farm products are concerned. So this was a commitment by the government. Although the farmers, certain section of the farmers in our country, they had this apprehension that MSP might be removed going forward, the government procurement might fall, or government might stop procuring the farm products. But on the contrary, we saw that how in last 2 years specifically, the MSP was hiked gradually, and of course the government procurement of the farm product, that also increased to a record level. So there was a commitment from the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's side, and he even today mentioned this point, that his intent was very clear as far as the farm laws are concerned, to ensure that how can livelihoods of farmers can be made better, how can the income of the farmers can be doubled going forward. And in that context, these farm laws were introduced. But certain section of the farmers were not happy with the farm laws. They were not in favor of the farm laws. Although we saw that in how in 1.5 years, the various meetings were held between the government, that means the agriculture minister, and of course the farmers' representatives as well. But all did not conclude on a positive note, and that's the reason on this auspicious day, Prakash Purab, we are witnessing that Prime Minister Narendra Modi making a mega announcement for which the proceedings will be done in the upcoming session of the Parliament, whereby all the procedure for repealing the farm laws will take place, and that means, and he's also appealed to the farmers who are, still are agitating, so they should now go back, because it's a good news for a small section of these farmers that the farm laws have been repealed. And yes, the government clearly mentioning this point, and Prime Minister clearly highlighting this point, that even though a small section of farmers were not happy with the farm laws, but it matters to the government. Although certain section of the farmers were not happy with the farm laws, then also it matters to the government. Although in various other parts of the country, be it Madhya Pradesh, be it Maharashtra, be it Tamil Nadu, be it Gujarat, in various states we have seen it how, because of these farm laws, the farmer has benefited a lot. We have seen that how the middleman was.
All right, Arun, I'll request you to hold a moment and be there with us. We'll play out the Prime Minister's bite again for our viewers who might have missed this. I mean, you cannot miss this, but of course, the bite again where he's announcing that the farm laws have been repealed.
हमने 3 कृषि कानूनों को वापस लेने का, रिपील करने का निर्णय लिया है। इस महीने के अंत में शुरू होने जा रहे संसद सत्र में, इसी महीने में हम तीनों कृषि कानूनों को रिपील करने की संवैधानिक प्रक्रिया को पूरा कर देंगे। साथियों, मैं आज अपने सभी आंदोलनरत किसान साथियों से आग्रह कर रहा हूं, आज गुरु पर्व का पवित्र दिन है। अब आप अपने अपने घर लौटे, अपने खेत में लौटे, अपने परिवार के बीच लौटे। आइए एक नई शुरुआत करते हैं, नए सिरे से आगे बढ़ते हैं।
Right, Arun, coming back to you, a major relief for the farmers there agitating against the 3 farm laws. Now, there's also been another announcement regarding the zero budget farming and natural farming. What do you have on that?
So basically, zero budget farming ensures that how in less input, more output can be created. And when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, at that point in time, he gave a slogan there that per drop, more crop. And zero budgeting farming also ensures that you are moving towards the organic farming, in the direction of organic farming. Now, Sikkim in our country is a state, a northeastern state, which has completely moved in the direction of organic farming. Sikkim is 100% organic farm state primarily. Ladakh, for that matter, is moving in the direction of becoming organic. It takes a lot of time to become an organic state. So zero budgeting ensures that there is a very less input as far as producing any farm output is concerned. So now Prime Minister Narendra Modi also making this big announcement that a committee will be formed whereby researchers will be there who are related to the agriculture sector, academicians will be there, farmers of course will be there. And how can zero budgeting be included in our traditional ways of farming so that India can emerge as a big market for the organic farming, and of course whereby less chemicals are used, natural fertilizers are used, and via natural processes and methods primarily the farming can be done, ignoring the chemical pesticides and all this stuff that makes the product with the chemicals. So this ensures primarily that zero budgeting is a concept which is very much prevalent in some of the or various European states as well. In some of the Asian countries we are witnessing zero budgeting has become very popular because the input is less. You need to give less input, natural process, and via these processes farming can be done. And that's the reason now India is upgrading in that direction, because the idea of the government, and specifically Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is that how can the farmers' income can be doubled by 2022, and zero budgeting plays an important role. So yes, we can also expect some budget allocation also as far as this specific point is concerned, as far as zero budgeting is concerned in the upcoming the budget session as well that comes in 2022. So yes, various announcements are very much likely in that aspect. But yes, to sum it all, yes, the government made it clear that their pro-farmer policies have played an important role in ensuring that how farmers' livelihood can be increased. And as I mentioned earlier, zero budgeting is one more announcement in that direction, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made today.
All right, let me just quickly take you through the 3 farm laws, in fact, which the parliament had passed. One was Farmers' Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020. The second one was Farmers' Empowerment and Protection Agreement of Price Assurance. And the third one was Farm Services Act of 2020. All 3 laws now having been repealed by the government. Prime Minister Narendra Modi made this big announcement a short while back. Arun, you know, a lot of people might see this as, you know, something that the government had to bow down, or, you know, something not positive coming out of the whole situation. But, you know, the government really making it clear that even if it is a small chunk of farmers that are protesting these farm laws, it does value that small chunk also. The government values them and holds their opinion also very, very significant when it comes to strengthening the nation.
Absolutely. And Shreya, just let's try to demystify these farm laws. What does these 3 farm laws that you have mentioned right now, what does that mean for the farmer? Now, earlier there was a system where farmers could only sell their produce to Aadhatiyas. Now,
all right, there seems to be an audio issue with Arun. We'll connect with him again. The big news that we are getting you right now is Prime Minister Narendra Modi announcing that the 3 farm laws that the parliament had passed have been repealed now. They will be withdrawn, and the constitutional process will be initiated in the winter session of the parliament, which is going to begin on 23rd of November. Let's listen in to what the Prime Minister said a short while ago.
देश के छोटे किसानों की चुनौतियों को दूर करने के लिए हमने बीज, बीमा, बाजार और बचत, इन सभी पर चौतरफा काम किया। सरकार ने अच्छी क्वालिटी के बीज के साथ ही किसानों को नीम कोटेड यूरिया, सॉइल हेल्थ कार्ड, माइक्रो इरिगेशन जैसी सुविधाओं से भी जोड़ा। हमने 22 करोड़ सॉइल हेल्थ कार्ड किसानों को दिए, और इस वैज्ञानिक अभियान के कारण एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन भी बढ़ा। आज ही सरकार ने कृषि क्षेत्र से जुड़ा एक और अहम फैसला लिया है। जीरो बजट खेती यानी प्राकृतिक खेती को बढ़ावा देने के लिए देश की बदलती आवश्यकताओं को ध्यान में रखकर क्रॉप पैटर्न को वैज्ञानिक तरीके से बदलने के लिए एमएसपी को और अधिक प्रभावी और पारदर्शी बनाने के लिए ऐसे सभी विषयों पर भविष्य को ध्यान में रखते हुए निर्णय लेने के लिए एक कमेटी का गठन किया जाएगा। इस कमेटी में केंद्र सरकार, राज्य सरकारों के प्रतिनिधि होंगे, किसान होंगे, कृषि वैज्ञानिक होंगे, कृषि अर्थशास्त्री होंगे। साथियों, हमारी सरकार किसानों के हित में काम करती रही है और आगे भी करती रहेगी।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi there addressing the nation, where he made two big announcements. The first one, of course, is the repealing of the three farm laws that has witnessed a small section of farmers protesting against. And of course, the second big announcement is that the government is now going to focus on zero budget farming. We're connecting with Arun back again. Arun, we were talking about the three farm laws that have been repealed, and the Prime Minister making it clear that his government has always focused on the welfare of farmers, on doubling farmers' income, and he of course listed out the various efforts that his government has taken, whether it is providing soil health cards or micro irrigation or various other strengthening rural market infrastructure or mandis being connected with the ENAM scheme. He listed all out of them in his address to the nation, but he also went on to say that there was a lot of sincerity, a lot of honesty, a lot of transparency when his government had brought out these three farm laws, but now it perhaps doesn't seem to satisfy the small chunk of farmers that were protesting against these laws, and now they have been withdrawn, and the process of course will be initiated in the winter session.
Absolutely. So it's a big announcement by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and we know this fact that how in last 7 years various initiatives have been taken by the government to ensure a better ecosystem for the farmers. That includes agriculture infrastructure fund for 1 lakh crore rupees, whereby the small farmers can take this fund and utilize for creation of agri-related infrastructure. We have seen that how under the ENAM initiative, various mandis of our country have been technologically upgraded and they have been integrated as well. That means farmers can also sell their produce online via the ENAM platform. On the other side, under the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, we have seen how more than 10 crore farmers have benefited and more than 1.5 lakh crore rupees have been transferred in the account of these more than 10 crore farmers. Also, we have seen that how Msp has been increased by the government on a regular basis, so that the farmers get, and of course the government procurement has also been increased by the government, so that the farmers get more on their farm produce. And in that context, only the farm laws were introduced. And if you try to demystify the farm laws, what does that mean? Earlier, the farm laws clearly mentions this point, that it gave freedom to the farmers. Earlier, there was a mechanism that farmers could only sell their produce to the aharatiyas, you can say a middleman primarily, and not other than aharatiyas. The laws restricted the farmers of our country to sell his produce only to aharatiyas and none other than the aharatiyas or the middleman. And he could only sell his produce in the place where he was living, in the respective place in a district whereby he was living. But this farm law gave farmers the freedom that they could sell this farm produce to anybody.
And Arun, particularly the Prime Minister talked about small farmers being benefited from the various schemes that the government has taken out.
Absolutely, and he clearly mentioned this point, that how small farmers, be PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, be it the soil health card,
Yes.
be it the other initiative that ensures that how the farmers were technologically upgraded, and the farmers, as I mentioned earlier, the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, that was a big initiative by the government, whereby more than 10 crore small farmers have benefited who have less than 2 hectares of land. So, whereby more than 1.5 lakh crore have been transferred in the account of the farmers. So yes, various initiatives were taken. Government also ensured that how can these small farmers get into contract with the big corporate players and get, according to the contract, they can grow. For example, if a corporate sector has a demand of growing a tomato for the tomato sauce, so corporates can directly order to the farmers can grow tomatoes and sell it to the corporate sector. But again, the small section of the farmers in our country, they had this apprehension that when farmers will get into contract with the corporate players, it is very much likely that corporates might take over the land of the farmers, which government again and again tried to reiterate on various platforms that this will not be done. The farm law clearly mentions this point, that farmers will again be having the freedom to leave the contract at any point in time, and they can go out of the contract and can deny the contract at any point in time. On the other side, the corporate players, once they engage into the contract, they will have to pay to the farmers. they can't walk out of the contract. So primarily the farm laws ensured and gave freedom to the farmers. They strengthened or empowered the farmers of our country, and they also ensured that how can farmers can double up their income as soon as possible or by 2022. So that was the idea behind the farm laws. But there were apprehensions in some small section of the farmers of our country, and that's the reason, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi mentioned, even though a small section of the farmers were agitating, were protesting against the farm laws, and it matters to the government, but there was complete honesty, sincerity, and the motive was very much clean as far as these farm laws are concerned. There was no malign motive for, behind these farm laws. The intent was very clear, very honest, very sincere for bringing and introducing these farm laws that ensures doubling up of the farmers' income, that empowering the farmers, giving freedom to the farmers. And we've also seen that how the mandis of our country were upgraded technologically. ENAM basically is a game changer initiative in our country, and we have seen that how ENAM ensures that farmers and traders can come on an online platform. Farmers can sell their stuff. Just imagine this: a farmer from Maharashtra can sell his farm produce to
right,
Arun.
Arun, I'm sorry for interrupting you. We'll just come back to you. We are listening in that Haryana Minister Anil Vij has now appealed to the farmers to return home following the Prime Minister's major announcement. Let's listen in.
प्रकाश उत्सव के पावन पर्व पर आज प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने तीनों कृषि बिल वापस लेने की घोषणा की है। तमाम किसानों को इसका स्वागत करना चाहिए, अपने धरने समाप्त कर देने चाहिए और अपने अपने घरों को जाकर अपने नियमित कामों की ओर लगना चाहिए।
Right, a major relief for the farmers agitating at the borders now. Back to you, Arun. You were telling us more about the farm laws that have been repealed.
Absolutely. So now even the minister from Haryana also appealing to the farmers to return back return back to normalcy primarily, and return back to the farms once again rather than on roads. And it's a big announcement, and this means a lot to the farmers as well, specifically on this Prakash Purab. And we've also seen that how government has been very much committed to the Sikh community as well. And if you look at it this way, 80% of today's farmers are the small farmers specifically, and government has been committed to ensuring boosting their income and ensuring that they get a better livelihood. And yes, in that context, as I was mentioning earlier, that ENAM, that was a game changer initiative by the government that ensured that how can the mandis be made online, mandis may be integrated, all the state mandis can be integrated. Close to 1,000 mandis primarily, they are being upgraded, technologically upgraded, interlinked primarily. Mandis of one state is being linked to another state. And just imagine the situation whereby a farmer of Maharashtra can sell his produce to a trader who is sitting in Delhi or maybe in any other state of the country. So this was possible because of the ENAM or online integration of various mandis of our country. And we have seen that how massive investment was made by the government on the mandis upgradation, technologically upgradation of these mandis, which brought together the traders and of course the farmers together on one single platform, removing the role of the middlemen in our country. So that was a big relief for the farmers that ensured, and we have seen that various case studies, in last 1.5 years or so, that how farmers from Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, we have seen that how their income was, income got a major boost because of these farm laws, because they entered into contract farming with various big corporate houses for growing of strawberries, tomatoes, and they saw the kind of revenues that they earned after the farm laws being introduced. That was massive because there was no role of middlemen. The corporate houses were getting tie-ups and getting into contract with the farmers, and of course they were getting paid very much high on their farm produce. So that was the idea. Last but not the least, there was again an apprehension in a small section of the farmers that Msp will be removed. Now this was the top point in the minds of the farmers. Although government gave a commitment to the farmers in various meetings that Msp is going to stay over here forever, and there will government will also increase their procurement going forward. But there's a small section of the farmers, they had the apprehension in their mind that MSP will be removed. Although if you look at it, the statistics of last 2 years or so, we have seen that how gradually the MSP was increased on the farm produce. The minimum support price was increased on various commodities in last 2 years. We have seen in various cabinet briefings, government announcing and clearly mentioning that on various farm produce, the MSP was increased. And on the other side, we have seen the record procurement by the government of various farm produce. So that also ensured that the farmers' produce is being sold at a higher prices, because government procurement primarily decides the rate or the market rate, because at the price at which the government is procuring at a higher price, the MSP primarily decides the market rate as well, because of the price whereby the government is giving purchasing at the support price. So that ensures that how the market rate will be, on which rate the farmers will be getting the money for their produce. So this ensures that the government has been committed. The efforts were very sincere, honest as far as the farm laws are concerned. But although even the small sections farmer, if they were not happy with the farm laws, the government taking into consideration and ensuring that the farm laws are repealed, and of course in this upcoming session in the parliament the procedure will start taking place as far as repealing of these farm laws. And this is a mega announcement by the government, big announcement by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And in 2014 he made a commitment that this was the first commitment by the Prime Minister Modi that his government is pro-poor and pro-farmer. So of course maintaining that aspect, and of course ensuring that the farmers get a better livelihood and a better ecosystem can be created. And that's the reason a big announcement today by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his address to the nation.
Right, Arun, request you to stay with us. We're joined by our guest, Dr. Vishan Das, who's the former chairman, CACP, and professor economics at IIPA. Dr. Vishan Das, thanks very much for joining us on DD India. A big announcement there by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, repealing of the 3 farm laws that his government had passed in the parliament. First, thoughts on the withdrawing of these farm laws?
Yes, these laws were very good for the farmer because they were progressive and looking forward. But the beauty of democracy is what the people at large want. And in response to, and it is a great honor and respect for the democratic system we are in. And in reference and for the full honor and respect for the citizenship, because Prime Minister also says at many other occasions it has to be citizen-centric government, and to honor that what is the popular and the masses want, and he has conceded that even if it is good otherwise on economic background and other logical thing, but if the farmers don't want, why we should persist on it. So he has taken a very timely decision. He has tasted, he has tried to pursue it, but somehow the farmers group would not be convinced, and therefore these 3 laws have been withdrawn. I mean, he has committed it will be withdrawn. The due process will follow because there is some cabinet decision has to be taken. But in principle, he has agreed, and therefore there is always a trade-off between what the nation wants and what the citizen-centric government would like to give to them.
Absolutely. And yes, Dr. Vishan Das, I think you put it very beautifully there when you said that that's how a democracy works. That's how, governments and its citizens work. But, when you said that these 3 farm laws were good, they were helpful for the farmers, could you please elaborate on that? How would they have benefited the farmers?
See, gold is gold when it is sold. What farmer produce is no less precious than the gold. Yet, he has created a congenial condition through those 3 pieces of law that the farmer should be assured of the prices through that one ordinance, and the whole nation becomes the market. Because unless the farmers get the best of the market, so farmer need only 2 things. getting the prices right and getting the markets right. So this also was a step forward to get the prices right and get the markets right. The third law was on Essential Commodity Act, and that was drawn in 1955 when we were suffering and undergoing a lot of the shortage of the food, and therefore at that time it was relevant. Now we are surplus state. We have moved from net food importing country to self-sufficiency, then to the net food exporting country. So we have to be very clear, because Kal Patra Desh, the time, over the time you have to change with the time and respond to the changing conditions. And in response to that, because those three laws were very, very progressive and forward-looking, but somehow the government they could not convince the farmers, and as a respect to their wishes, farmers' demand was conceded to me, and that is again how our resilient and strong democratic system is in the country. Even the Prime Minister will not feel shy of taking away the laws which came into being, and because this is a wish of the farmer, and that also establishes once again beyond doubt that this is the citizen-centric government, and full marks to this government, because they are respectful to the popular wishes.
Right, Dr. Vishandas, the Prime Minister has also, he also spoke about a lot of efforts that the government has in fact taken to benefit the farmers. He talked about the soil health cards, the micro irrigation that has been ensured, the insurance that the government is giving, the compensation to farmers. Now, is that related to the farm laws, or the farm laws, the repealing of the farm laws will affect these schemes, the other schemes that the government has for the farmers?
No, I think these are related to those only three things: the price assurance, and the Essential Commodity Act, and because APMC will continue to be what they were, because one of the legislation enemy says that the whole nation becomes a mandi, and therefore there were certain issues and the farmers' apprehension, and therefore he has withdrawn. But it will not have any impact whatsoever on other schemes. They will continue they will continue. And let me also add that the agriculture ministry's budget has increased manifold to 1.25 lakh crores. That was almost fivefold compared to a few years ago. So that also shows, whatever be the perception, but this present government, particularly the Honorable Prime Minister Modi, is very, very committed to the welfare of the farmers. Actually, earlier the government was production-centric government, the tonnage-centric government. Their one-point program was how to increase the production. So it was a tonnage-centric in that sense, but the farmers' income did not increase commensurately. This government in particular is giving overemphasis on the welfare of the farmer. That means they are bringing the welfare of the farmer to the center of development agenda.
Right. And he's also made another important announcement on zero budget farming and natural farming practices that will be promoted for less input and more output in agriculture. What do you have to say about that? Could you elaborate?
That is very, very, now we have seen the COP26, the environmental issues are there, and therefore there is a need that you have to be not only increasing the production, not only increasing the welfare of the farmers, but the environment also has to be protected. And therefore we should give the environment and the soil and the air no less better than what we inherited from our purvas and our forefathers. And therefore, the green economy, the zero budgeting, that means you don't have to be extravagant and reckless in creating the GHG and all, because we have to be very, very careful on usage of the water, the rational utilization of natural resources like land and water. and therefore we are committed, and the government is committed to be sensitive to the imperatives of the environmental protection, the GHG emissions, and the issue relating to that. So government has made it very clear that come what, we will also protect the environment, and therefore there are few schemes, and recently COP26 also assured on this thing. But so those are the issues, and I'm sure we are moving on a higher trajectory of the growth and higher trajectory of our commitment to the
Right.
environment protection.
Right, Dr. Vishendas, like you said, we hope to move on a higher trajectory of growth and prosperity when it comes to India's agriculture. But, now that these 3 farm laws have been repealed, what is the way forward when it comes to giving out farmers the same kind of provisions that these farm laws provided? Is there any scope in terms of agricultural practices or trade and commerce for the farmers to have these kind of provisions in some other way?
Yeah, let me, before I go to this, let me make it very clear. Technically speaking, the farm law have not been repealed as yet.
Yes.
They have committed that this will be repealed. There
Yes,
is a
of
due
course.
process which
Sure.
will take a while before it is done, because it requires the cabinet approval and process. That will take, once the Prime Minister has announced, it will take. So it's a matter of few days, but nevertheless, as on today, he has committed to repeal, but not repealed as on today. That has to be clear to my audience.
Of course,
And-
absolutely.
Yeah, and second thing is those the welfare of the farmer and the schemes and everything, because that will continue. And let me also remind my audience through you that in COVID, every other sector of the economy registered a negative growth. The whole, but the savior was agriculture. That again shows the importance of our agriculture. So agriculture requires a lot of more attention. It somehow has been ignored till 2014. And let me also add, because 1% growth, my research shows 1% growth in agriculture is equivalent to 2 to 3% growth in other sectors of the economy. The reason being that agriculture generates the demand. Unless agriculture is prosperous, its welfare is ensured, and its welfare is brought to the center of development agenda, it won't be able to generate the demand for other sectors. Therefore, other sectors, the secondary sector, the tertiary sector will not prosper. That's point clear. Now, let me give an analogy, the importance of agriculture. When you are launching a rocket, it has to be fired from the bottom. That means our sector, our economy can be divided into broadly 3 layers. Primary layer, our primary sector, which is essentially agriculture. Second is like manufacturing, and tertiary sector, which is on the top, is service sector like IT, the tourism, and hotels, restaurants, so on and so forth. Now, until 2014, the previous government tried to launch the rocket by firing on the top. That means reforms were introduced in tertiary sector and secondary sector, ignoring the primary sector. This government has tried to launch the rocket from the bottom. That means firing from the bottom. That means reforms are essentially required in the primary sector. Only then the rocket can be launched. This is just an analogy to underscore the point. The growth in agriculture and the importance of the agriculture can never be undermined. And that was the clear vision of our Prime Minister, the present government. Somehow, because when you are taking the reform and transform and perform, and there is a kind of U-turn from the previous 70 years or 65 years, then people get a kind of surprise. And some people are not able they are not convinced for some reason. Therefore, this has happened. But I think in the other form of the reforms, will continue because agriculture can never be ignored any further. And the reasons I just explained. So we have to keep in the back of mind that farmers' welfare is not an I mean, whether to focus on the farmers' welfare and bring their welfare on the center of development agenda is not optional. It has to be done in order to have the growth for the entire economy in a comprehensive and widespread. Otherwise, the secondary, tertiary sector can never prosper because of the demand has to be generated from the bottom.
Well, thank you once again, Dr. Vishandas, for sharing with us your insights. We'll come back to you again. We have Arun with us now, joining us once again. Now, a committee will be constituted to take a decision on making MSP more effective and transparent. A committee to also take decisions on all such matters, keeping in view the future. Committee will also have representatives of the centre, state, governments and farmers, agri-scientists and economists. So, we have Arun joining us on this. Arun, tell us more.
Well, absolutely. So there are various, subsets primarily of these farm laws. MSP again is a crucial aspect if you look at it this way. And there was primarily apprehension in farmers' mind that MSP will be removed gradually, and farmers, will not be there won't be any kind of minimum support price. But importantly, in any agriculture sector, whereby there are 10 crore, more than 10 crore small farmers in our country, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given his commitment that MSP will not be removed. Government on various occasions has clearly mentioned this point in various meetings with various stakeholders. He's mentioned this point that MSP is an important component in boosting the farmers' income. Without this, an agriculture-based economy like India cannot sustain, and that's the reason MSP will be there. So yes, indeed, it's a welcome move by the government to ensure that there is a commitment from the government side for ensuring that there is MSP. And MSP was an important component when farmers were agitating on the farm laws. There were apprehensions about the MSPs primarily. But yes, indeed, this is a big move by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi of repealing all these 3 farm laws, and on the other side also ensuring that MSP stays, the government procurement increases, because the more record procurement which is being done by the government, it also ensures that the private players also coming, and of course the demand increases. And the way India has executed the programs like Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, whereby 80 crore people of our country were fed during the COVID pandemic time free of cost. It is because of the record procurement by the government, and government can't ignore or neglect these 2 important aspects of procurement and of course the MSP, because this is the basic of the agriculture sector, which provides a cushion to the farmers. And of course, in that context, primarily this is a very welcoming move by the government as far as forming the committees, discussion with various stakeholders of the agriculture sector. So in that direction, it's a big move, and of course a welcoming decision, of course, by all the stakeholders, by the farming community.
Arun, also, the Prime Minister also said that the repealing of these 3 farm laws will be done in the upcoming winter session according to the constitutional procedure. Could you take us through now, the next step of repealing these? How does one go about it?
Well, absolutely. So yes, the way the bill was introduced in the parliament, the bill gets passed in the parliament, and of course this bill became the law primarily. So in a similar fashion, when the upcoming parliament session starts, of course the bill will again become for the repealing aspect, and of course the repeal procedure will take place. But the big announcement that has been made by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it clearly signifies, and of course we know this fact that the announcement made by the executive of our country, the Prime Minister of our country, and announcing this fact clearly ensures this fact that this is a welcoming step, and farmers, farming community is actually those section of the society, or the farmers primarily, who were not the pro these farm bills. They are welcoming this decision of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And in this upcoming parliament session, this repealing procedure will also start to take place, and of course this will also get passed. So you can say that now these three farm laws that were introduced will not be will not be part of the law primarily. And of course on the zero budgeting, an announcement has been made for forming of the committee for the zero budgeting aspect. And of course we know this fact that the government has been committed to ensure that how can a better ecosystem can be provided to the farming community, to the farmers specifically. So if not farm laws, what more can be done? Because Prime Minister Narendra Modi's intent was very much clear. He clearly mentioned this point on several occasions and several times while addressing to the nation that his intent was clear. There was an honest, intent behind the farm laws. There was sincerity in bringing in these farm laws or introducing these farm laws in a system. And of course, the intent was that how the farmers' income can be doubled going forward. That means by 2022, how can the farmers' income can be doubled? And we have seen that how in last 7 years, various steps and various initiatives have been taken by the government to boost the farmers' income. What are the international best practices that can be brought into India's agriculture sector? Can it be brought or can it not be brought? Because India is an agriculture dependent economy. So yes, what more can be done? Committees have been formed now, to boost the agriculture output primarily. But yes, as far as the GDP contribution is concerned, agriculture was the only sector during the COVID pandemic time which wasn't positive. So that showcased that how agriculture sector kept on moving. It is because of the government's initiative, government's policy level intervention that the agriculture sector kept moving primarily even during the COVID pandemic time. It was the agriculture sector that supported the GDP, that supported the economy even during the COVID pandemic time. Feeding 80 crore people free of cost is not an easy task during the COVID pandemic time for more than a year. So this shows that how agriculture sector is the backbone of our economy. And now, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi says that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. So that Vishwas is an important component. This is the primary slogan of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He talks about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas. So taking into consideration views of everyone, taking into consideration even the small section of the society, even if the small section of the farmers, if they are not happy with the farm laws that were introduced by the parliament, so of course that will be repealed now in the parliament, and that this gives a big message that how this government is pro-poor, pro-people, and of course the idea is that how can farmers' income can be doubled. And the way we have seen that for more than 10 crore farmers, I mean 80% of the farmers of our country, but they are small farmers. They're categorized into small and marginalized farmers, and we have seen that how via PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, more than 1.5 lakh crore rupees were transferred directly in the bank accounts of these more than 10 crore farmers. So this also gives a message that on one side, government is giving a financial cushion to the farmers. So on the other side, the government is ensuring that how can agri infrastructure can be boosted so that the ecosystem of the boosted agriculture infrastructure can be, can be availed by the farmers of our country, specifically the small farmers. Now, on the other side, making laws primarily that gives an ecosystem. There is a less government intervention to make a system whereby the farmers have more freedom, farmers have freedom to sell, farmers have freedom to choose the buyers primarily, to empower the farmers of our country. So that is the idea. And if even a small section of the farmers are not supporting the farm bill, so government again coming on front foot, Prime Minister Narendra Modi directly leading from the front, making an address to the nation, and clearly, clearly connecting with the farmers and the people, and clearly, clearly explaining everything that how the government has been very much honest and sincere as far as the farming community or the agriculture sector is concerned, because agriculture is the backbone of our economy, and coming from front, leading from front, and yes, again coming and saying that committees will be formed. Various inputs will be taken on various other announcements that will be made in future that may be that may be related to zero budget farming, or that may be related to MSPs, or that may be related to any other subset of the agriculture sector. But yes, so Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly announcing that aspect. So on the last but not the least, also ensuring that in future whatever announcements are being made, committees will be made, inputs from farmers, researchers, agriculture scientists, academicians, government officials will be taken up, and of course this will ensure that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and Sabka Vishwas, and of course Sabka Prayas can be ensured. So in that direction, of course, a big announcement by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the morning. He made this big announcement while addressing to the nation of repealing the 3 farm laws.
Right, Arun, we'll come back to you. Once again, we are going to play for our viewers who missed this important bite in the morning, the Prime Minister talking about the repealing of the farm laws. Let's listen in. to some reactions also in fact from the farmers.
सुखविंदर सिंह सबसे पहले डीडी न्यूज़ का धन्यवाद करता हूं। तो जो आज गुरु नानक के से गुरपुरब पे सरकार ने जो किसानों के आंदोलन चला था 1 साल से ऊपर हो जाने वाला है, तो जो उनका संघर्ष था वो आज मैं सोच रहा हूं जो कदम किया है, लेकिन पहले लेट आए हैं लेकिन अच्छा किया है। जो मुख्यमंत्री साहब प्रधानमंत्री ने जो कहा है बहुत अच्छा है, और जो भी हमारे जहाँ पर उनके लिए थोड़ा दिमाग में गुस्सा आ रहा था, अभी वो भी थोड़ा टल जाएगा। सही है, तो बहुत अच्छा है।
हम गुरुपुरब मना के और जो किसानों की खुशी है उसी में शामिल होके ये खुशी मनाएंगे।
हम उस दिन खुशी का इजहार करेंगे जिस रोज जैसे विधानसभा में पास किए थे वैसे उस विधानसभा में रद्द करेंगे। हम सभी किसान भाइयों की तरफ से उसका धन्यवाद करते हैं। खुशी तो दुगना हो गया है, गुरु नानक देव जी गुरुपुरब है, बहुत खुशी है। जो ठीक है नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने जो किया है तो उसका धन्यवाद करते हैं, तो आगे भी जो किसानों की समस्या है उसका हल होना चाहिए।
Well, there was some reactions coming in from people in Punjab over the major announcement that the Prime Minister's made this morning, and that is the repealing of the 3 farm laws. And let's also listen into that Prime Minister's bite again for those of you who've missed it in the morning.
हमने 3 कृषि कानूनों को वापस लेने का, रिपील करने का निर्णय लिया है। इस महीने के अंत में शुरू होने जा रहे संसद सत्र में, इसी महीने में हम 3 कृषि कानूनों को रिपील करने की संवैधानिक प्रक्रिया को पूरा कर देंगे। साथियों, मैं आज अपने सभी आंदोलनरत किसान साथियों से आग्रह कर रहा हूं, आज गुरु पर्व का पवित्र दिन है। अब आप अपने अपने घर लौटे, अपने खेत में लौटे, अपने परिवार के बीच लौटे। आइए एक नई शुरुआत करते हैं, नए सिरे से आगे बढ़ते हैं। के लिए हमने बीज, बीमा, बाजार और बचत, इन सभी पर चौतरफा काम किया। सरकार ने अच्छी क्वालिटी के बीज के साथ ही किसानों को नीम कोटेड यूरिया, सॉइल हेल्थ कार्ड, माइक्रो इरिगेशन जैसी सुविधाओं से भी जोड़ा। हमने 22 करोड़ सॉइल हेल्थ कार्ड किसानों को दिए, और इस वैज्ञानिक अभियान के कारण एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन भी बढ़ा। आज ही सरकार ने कृषि क्षेत्र से जुड़ा एक और अहम फैसला लिया है। 0 बजट खेती यानी प्राकृतिक खेती को बढ़ावा देने के लिए देश की बदलती आवश्यकताओं को ध्यान में रखकर क्रॉप पैटर्न को वैज्ञानिक तरीके से बदलने के लिए एमएसपी को और अधिक प्रभावी और पारदर्शी बनाने के लिए ऐसे सभी विषयों पर भविष्य को ध्यान में रखते हुए निर्णय लेने के लिए एक कमेटी का गठन किया जाएगा। इस कमेटी में केंद्र सरकार, राज्य सरकारों के प्रतिनिधि होंगे, किसान होंगे, कृषि वैज्ञानिक होंगे, कृषि अर्थशास्त्री होंगे। साथियों, हमारी सरकार किसानों के हित में काम करती रही है और आगे भी करती रहेगी।
Now, Vishal, our correspondent, joins us from Punjab. Let's get some reactions from the farmers. Vishal, what is happening there and what are the reactions? Vishal, can you hear us?
Let me tell you that I am here in Sultanpur Lodi, and people are all very excited about this breaking news, simply because today is Guru Purab and the Prime Minister has given them a gift which they have been asking for a very long time. And I am here in a field. Let's talk to some of the farmers and seek their reaction. प्रधानमंत्री ने अनाउंस किया है कि कृषि कानूनों को वापस ले लिया जाएगा। आपका क्या रिएक्शन है इसमें?
ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ, ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੀਤਾ ਜੀ ਉਹਨੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜੀ, ਸ਼ੁਕਰੀਆ ਜੀ।
आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे? कृषि कानून वापस हो रहा है
जी, ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਗਰੀਬਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਨੇ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਵਾ,
ਕਿਸਾਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੀਤਾ,
ਹੋਰ ਠੀਕ ਠਾਕ ਵਧੀਆ ਚੰਨੀ।
तो आज आप खुशी किस तरह से मनाएंगे? आज गुरु पूरब भी है, कृषि कानून में
ਗੁਰੂ ਪੁਰਬ ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆ ਜੀ, ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਜੀ, ਲੱਖ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ ਜੀ, ਗੁਰੂ ਪੁਰਬ ਦੀਆਂ ਲੱਖ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ ਜੀ।
ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਤੰਦਰੁਸਤੀਆਂ ਬਖਸ਼ੇ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਜੀ। ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜੀ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਵਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੀਤਾ ਜੀ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੇ, ਗਰੀਬਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜ਼ਿਮੀਂਦਾਰਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਜੀ। ਧਰਨੇ ਲਾਏ ਸੀ, ਚਲੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੱਕ 'ਚ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ।
So there you heard these people, they have not gone through the details, they have only seen the announcement by the Prime Minister, and they are also very happy because today is a very special day. 2 days back the corridors were thrown open and these people, that they can go and offer their prayers in Pakistan at the Kartarpur Sahib. And today being Guru Purab, the Prime Minister making an announcement that the government has decided to withdraw the farm laws, and that has spread a lot of happiness here, and they are saying that they would be celebrating the day in a very, very special way.
That's right. The farmers are clearly elated at the announcement and expressing their gratitude to the Prime Minister for this major announcement on the Prakash Gurpurab of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Also the Kartarpur corridor now being open, and for devotees, the farmers and people clearly very happy with the two decisions. And let's see what else do you have? What are the other updates? Vishal, can you tell us more?
Sometime back I was there at the Sultanpur Lodi Beri Sahib Gurudwara, and that is the place where Guru Nanak Dev Ji had spent 14 years of his life, and this is also a very, very special Gurudwara, a very sacred place for all the followers of Sikhism. So the moment this announcement was made, and I spoke to some of the youngsters and some of the farmers who had gone for offering prayers at the Gurudwara, they all became very excited. Initially they were taken aback. They said that, oh, has he made an announcement? Then we showed them DD News, and they were also very happy that, oh, we have been praying for this, and finally Prime Minister making an announcement. So all kind of bitterness that was there is no more now, and we are all with the Prime Minister. And thank you, Prime Minister. This is what the people of Punjab had to say.
Right, Vishal, can you also get some more farmers to give their reactions? We see that you are in Punjab now, in Lodhi, and there has been a major announcement by the Prime Minister repealing the 3 laws. Can we listen in from some more farmers there?
Yes, definitely. I will ask some of more farmers. प्रधानमंत्री ने गुरु पूरब के दिन घोषणा करी कि कृषि कानून को वापस ले लिया गया है। इस पर आपका क्या रिएक्शन है? आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
आपका रिएक्शन ये है जी, बहुत धन्यवाद मोदी होना दा। पिंड ढविंडी वालों साडा भी तंबू लगाया है थे 1 साल में। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करांगे जे कानून वापस ले लेंगे तो बहुत धन्यवाद।
इससे आपकी खेती पे, आपके जोश पर क्या फर्क पड़ेगा?
बहुत ज्यादा जी, बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत धन्यवाद करांगे।
अब आप खेती कितने जोश से कर पाएंगे? पहले आप लोग नाराज थे, अब आप खुश हैं, आज गुरु पूरब है, खुशी किस तरह से मनाएंगे आज?
बहुत ज्यादा ही पटाखे चलाएंगे, सबको करेंगे शाम को।
पटाखे चलाएंगे आप?
हाँ, बहुत ज्यादा ही। और हाँ जी, और इससे भी आधा हो क्या हो सकता?
So there you heard from the farmer. He says that we will be bursting crackers to express our happiness, and we are also very happy. We were taken rather by surprise because today they were all preparing to go to the Gurudwaras, and this news coming in.
Vishal,
they are also
you know,
very
the
happy.
Prime Minister has also given them a big gift on the occasion of Guru Purab, but the Prime Minister also made the announcement of a zero budget farming, where basically, you know, environmental friendly practices are encouraged in agricultural practices. So really, I'm not sure if you're still joined by the farmers, but, you know, really wanted to know their take on this kind of practice that is being initiated by the government.
Well, we'll have to wait for an answer on that question, because you know that this is Punjab and people have instantly gone into celebration.
Celebrate, absolutely.
And they are already celebrating, their celebration is on. They were already celebrating the Guru Purab, which is the birth anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And with this news coming in, they are also very happy. Let me tell you that I've been speaking to a lot of people. Many of them, they are not aware of what these farm laws were, but they were made to understand that they were against the farmers. So it would take some more time for them to understand the details. All they know is that the farm laws were against the farmers, and now since the farm laws have been withdrawn, repealed, so they are also very happy. But they do not know the details about it. So we'll have to wait for some more time, and I would also look for some more farmers who are better informed so that they can give us a better reaction.
Right, Vishal, thanks very much for joining us with those inputs. We'll keep coming back to you, of course, to get the reactions of farmers who have been given a big gift by the government by the withdrawing the repeal of the 3 farm laws. Now, the government also decided to implement zero budget natural farming. We know that these are, of course, practices that are eco-friendly. We were joined by Dr. Ashok Vishandas, who is the former chairman of CACP and the professor economics at IIPA. Dr. Vishandas, beg your pardon, you know, we have been talking about how these farm laws have been extremely, would have been extremely beneficial for the farmers. But now when we talk about the zero budget natural practices that the Prime Minister announced in his address, how does one see it when, you know, when the world is grappling with a serious concern as climate change and global warming?
Yes, I think this will lay a step in the right direction and well timed. See, there is, as you see, there is a lot of environmental issue and the eco-friendly thing, the organic farming, and there is it's not important how much you produce, but how do you produce and for whom to produce. Basically, we have to see there is a great demand for organic farming products, and the zero budgeting will be a step in that right direction. So we are ensuring that our posterity will get the soil and the environment no less better than what we inherited. That is point one. And then organic farming, if we practice, there is a great demand for our agriculture produce, not only in domestic market, that means in India, but also abroad. For instance, we are the largest exporter of rice, and sugar also we are great exporter. So the farmers will also reach a higher level of income, and then we will be a leader in. I mean, before Green Revolution, we used to practice a kind of organic farming which is now being advocated during those days, but then we moved from organic to the chemical fertilizer and so on and so forth, and we have seen the result. Now we have learned our lesson hard way, and from there we have to take to higher level of our production, and we have to have higher value. It's not important how much you produce, but how much income you can generate and how much value you can add. So this will also augment the farmer's income. This will also keep our products in greater demand, which will impinge on price and therefore the welfare of the farmer. And it's not only the story does not end here, but then the overall environment will be better. So this is one thing. And there is because of rising income and rising level of education, the consumers are also well informed, and they are conscious of what they are eating, and they look forward for the organic product and the hygienic thing, the sanitary and phytosanitary issues which are in WTO. So those are the issues. We become more compliant to the WTO and our export requirement, the inspection at pre-shipment, and all those non-technical barrier to export. Those will also be ensured. So there are whole gamut of issues which will impinge on zero-based budgeting. Zero budgeting in agriculture, and this will go. This is a step in right direction, and this will also go a long way in increasing our presence in the international community so far agriculture sector is concerned.
Okay,
and we have to ensure both the quality and the quantity.
Right.
The quantity higher producer till now, what we did, we have been overemphasizing on tonnage centric. And we ignored how to produce what we are producing.
Okay.
Now it will be a complete story.
Yes.
We increase our production and how to produce. So therefore, it will ensure the quality from medical point of view, because there are many products which are organic and that will protect your health and your well-being. Not only in terms of financial angle,
Right.
but in the physical well-being.
All
That
right,
means you will be free from the disease. There are certain ways of practices which lead to hazardous impact on the health.
Dr. Vishandas, I request you to stay with us. We'll come back to you. Let's listen in to a reaction from JDU leader Ajay Alok, who's just given his first thoughts on the repealing of these 3 farm laws.
कि किसी भी सरकार का यही प्रयास होता है कि उसके किए गए कार्यों से सबका साथ, सबका विश्वास और सबका विकास साथ में चले। हरियाणा, पंजाब, पश्चिमी यूपी के कुछ किसान संगठन इसका विरोध कर रहे थे। इन सब को ध्यान में रखते हुए और संवेदना दिखाते हुए प्रधानमंत्री जी ने आज ये कानून वापस लिया। हालांकि इस कानून में कोई गड़बड़
All right, JDU leader Ajay Alok there giving his first reactions on the repealing of the 3 farm laws. We are continued to be joined by Dr. Ashok Vishandas, our guest, and of course our colleague Arun has been giving us updates on the Prime Minister's address to the nation, where he announced the repealing of the 3 farm laws. Dr. Vishandas, Arun has a question for you. Arun, go ahead.
Thanks, Shreya. Dr. Ashok, Arun this side. My question to you is that since we're associated with the CACP and who better could be, a researcher or an expert on the agriculture cost aspect and the pricing aspect. My question to you over here is that, what more needs to be done? Because Prime Minister Narendra Modi has focused on the fact that how can be there can be per drop, more crop. So what international best practices can be adopted? Because Prime Minister has said that committees will be formed. So on MSP aspect primarily, what more can be done? So that they can improve the livelihood of the farmers, number one. You're talking about zero budgeting. In Sikkim, you're witnessing the organic farming. So as for making zero budgeting and, giving a conducive environment for zero budgeting, what more needs to be done? So in these 2 aspects, if you can give a research, what would be your input on that aspect, sir?
See, let me make it very clear. This is a slightly technical point I am going to make, but it will impinge on the MSP. Let me understand. The distribution of the cost, if it is normally distributed, the average cost, because the CACP takes the average cost into consideration for deciding the MSP. Now the point arises, cost means about 50% cost is higher than the farmers are producing at higher level so far their cost is concerned, and 50% farmers are producing the product at less than the cost determined by by CACP. The question arises: those farmers who are producing their produce at a cost higher than the weighted average all India cost, they always question the validity of the cost being determined by CACP. Now, question is, Why to take the weighted average? Because it does not cover the entire farming community so far their cost is concerned. So another alternative concept is bulk line cost. So that will increase the coverage of many farmers under MSP. I hope this is slightly economic and statistical point, but it impinges on determination of the cost. That is point one. Second, if you increase the productivity, the cost comes down. And if you adopt the organic way of producing, there the cost will be lower, and not only the cost will be lower, but the price will be higher, because there are many people who are willing to pay higher amount if it is organic product, and therefore it is a win-win situation. Farmer will end up producing the same product at a lower cost, but will fetch the prices in the market, both domestic and international, at a higher price. So difference between the price realized and the cost incurred will be much more, and therefore their welfare will be augmented. So organic farming, the zero budgeting in the agriculture, and we have to revisit the cost concept of how the CACP determine it. And still there are some section of farmers, they perceive their cost is not covered, because they adopt the practices which are not very efficient, and therefore they question the importance of the validity of the cost determined by CACP. And let me also make it very clear, the CACP does in a very scientific manner the cost determination, but it's a methodological issue which has to be kept in the back of mind.
So, Dr. Ashok, is the time come that the costing for the small farmers, because Prime Minister has mentioned this point, that there are more than 10 crore small farmers in our country. So, will there be a possibility that the costing for the small farmers can be different, for the big farmers, a small section of the farming community can be different, so that primarily Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, what he's talking about, can there be possibility? Is there an international practice related to that? Can that be ensured, while designing the new mechanisms going forward, Dr. Ashok?
Yeah, let me also add, I have traveled extensively in many countries, and no other country adopts or follows the method which we adopt, and it has been done for many years from 71 onward, and other countries, they try to follow us. So from scientific and economics point of view or statistical point of view, this is one of the best approaches India adopts. But at the same time, there is some scope to tweak the cost so that larger number of farmers income. And let me also add, when the costing is determined, the sample is representative, and the small farmer, the marginal farmer, the medium farmer, and the large, all farmers' cost is taken into account on cost accounting method. Our investigator, the Ministry of Agriculture's investigator, go to the farmers, those selected sample on daily basis, and then jot down the cost, and they do. So it's not that any section of farmers or the land holding size get neglected. No, everybody is covered. But the question is the weighted average cost we have to take. And let me also say you, the cost of production, because I have seen the data in greater detail, of the small and marginal farmer is not higher than those of the large farmer. On the other hand, sometimes large farmers' cost is higher because of some inefficiency and other things. The small farmers are entrepreneurs themselves, because they do everything themselves. So, but the size of the holding is not a region which increases or decreasing the cost. No, because it's the only thing is we have to put emphasis on the increasing the productivity, and increasing the productivity will reduce the cost of production. That is very, very important, and not from the farmer's angle alone, because your product or India's product becomes very, very competitive in the international market, which are willing to give higher prices if the quality of the product is ensured, and therefore it is very, very important. So we have to emphasize on reducing the cost by increasing the productivity. That is very, very important. And second, how we produce and what we produce. Basically, there are three aspects: what is to be produced, how to be produced, and for whom to produce. These three are very, very important aspects in the cost consideration, and that determines your presence in the international market, your farmers' welfare, and all the related issues. So,
Dr. Vishaldas, sorry to be interrupting you. When you talk about how we produced, of course, zero budget natural farming comes in, and there can be apprehensions about, the produce, the annual produce getting reduced. Does that anyway impact the kind of productivity we see in other methods of farming?
Yes, it is. And let me also, let me underscore the point, because you have to produce. What to produce is very important. You produce those items where there is a demand, because if farmers get the best prices for their produce, but only 55 to 60% is integrated with the market, that means it is monetized only 60%. The farmers' welfare and their income augmentation cannot be ensured, because about 40% of their produce remains unsold. So my suggestion to the government and the CACP is to do the analysis of the demand, and tell the farmers in advance what to produce, because if their production is in sync and calibrated as per the demand, then they are likely to have higher level of income. So demand centers has to be integrated. The markets the demand has to be in sync with the production. What is happening, because of the policy induced bias in favor of rice and wheat, farmer takes to produce more of wheat and rice, where our godowns and granaries are overflowing. You see the FCI's stock, they are over 90 million tons. That means 900 lakh tons of rice and wheat, and that is absolutely far more than their buffer stock norm or strategic buffer stock norm. Now, it cannot be explained. And why it is happening? Because we ensure their procurement. Now, if we are doing and overemphasizing this, then other high value crops get ignored, because farmers' propensity to take risk is very, very low. Therefore, government has to handhold them and ensure, don't worry, we are here. And when the production takes place in sync with the demand, that is very, very important point, which has been ignored in varying degrees thus far. So therefore, we have to tie that loose end.
Dr. Ashok, when you talk about what to produce, there have been sort of contradictions on what certain farmers produce, and therefore it could be the wrong agricultural crop when it is related to the kind of soil, the fertility and the quality of the soil that we get in that particular area, and therefore causing reduction in the water table there. But really, how does one make farmers aware of it? Is it only related to the profits that they earn out of those agricultural crops, or is it more?
No, see, farmers, we cannot expect farmers to see what is in the national interest. They will produce what is in their immediate gain. Now, for instance, FCI in Punjab and Haryana, just as an example, their shops are open for procurement at MSP. Now, farmers see this is assured procurement, and therefore they keep on producing regardless of the impact on the environment, regardless of impact on their water table. regardless of its impact or lack of integration with the market. So farmers, you can't find fault with the farmer. It's a policy induced. That means you are ensuring. Oh, now when we take, on one hand, we take the pride that we are exporting 10 million tons of rice every year. But very few people know that for producing 1 kg of rice, the all India average is about 1,500 liters of water is consumed. And therefore, when you are importing, when you are exporting rice, that means you are exporting virtual water. Now you cannot find, because our policy are such, you give the free electricity, you are giving free imports, and there is a free, I mean the assured procurement of rice, and so much congenial bias in favor of rice or wheat for that matter. And unless we shift away, for instance, we are importing more than 50% of our domestic production of edible oils. Now, how do you explain? On one hand, we are excess production of rice and wheat. On the other hand, we are in short production of oil seed, and therefore we import. So this is absolutely, it doesn't make much of economic sense. So we have to balance it, and therefore the government has to think out of box to produce those things where there is a demand and which can be integrated with the market and monetized, because farmers' things are to be monetized, and there has to be assured procurement of these.
Right, Dr. Vishendas, we'll come back to you. We have now Mr. Rakesh Gupta, Chairman of the Parliamentary Forum, joining us on our program. Welcome, sir, to this bulletin, and a major announcement by Prime Minister Modi this morning on the repealing of the 3 farm laws. Your first reaction, first comment on that.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to congratulate country and also extend my thanks to Prime Minister Modi जी. उनका जो एक नारा है, सबका साथ, सबका विश्वास, सबका विकास, तो प्रधानमंत्री जी ने ये जो किया कि हम एक कमेटी बनाएंगे जिसमें सब लोगों को साथ में लेकर के इस पर विचार करेंगे. करने को वो एज इट इज कर सकते थे, लेकिन उन्होंने कहा कि हम सबका साथ है, सबको हम साथ लेकर के चलेंगे तो तभी सबका विकास होगा. अब एक कमेटी बनेगी जो इस सारे तीनों बिलों पर विचार करेगी, और अगर ठीक लगेगा, सबके हितों की बात उसमें दिखाई देगी, तभी इसको लागू करेंगे, और उसमें जहां जहां जो अमेंडमेंट की जरूरत होगी सरकार उन सबको करेगी. अब सरकार ने तो अपनी तरफ से जो बेस्ट हो सकता था वो किया. अब ये देश का, किसानों का और ये किसान नेताओं का ये कर्तव्य बनता है कि वो भी अपने आंदोलन को वापस लें, अपने अपने घरों को जाएं और सरकार को इसमें जो अमेंडमेंट करने की जहां आवश्यकता है उसमें सहयोग करें. प्रधानमंत्री जी ने बहुत अच्छा निर्णय लिया है, और आप देखिए ये एक, अब जैसे सर्दियां आ रही हैं, उनको लगता था कि सारे किसान अपने घरों को छोड़ करके सड़कों पर हैं और उन्हें वापस जाना चाहिए. ये एक बहुत अच्छा निर्णय सरकार ने लिया है, और पूरे देश को प्रधानमंत्री जी का इसके लिए धन्यवाद करना चाहिए.
Dr. Gupta, this is an elaborate, cumbersome process है जब हम repeal की बात करते हैं, but Prime Minister ने बोला कि वो एक constitutional procedure follow करेंगे when the winter session begins to repeal these 3 farm laws. उसका process एक बार हमें समझाइए कि how step by step कैसे repeal होगा? What is the procedure like?
See, first of all, government will form a committee of all the experts. All those who are related to this issue, government will invite them, make a committee of experts. They will discuss, they will go into details of all 3 bills, and wherever amendment is required, they will do that, and then that bill will come to the parliament again. This will be passed with the majority, and then it will be implemented.
Okay. All right, Dr. Gupta, also, I mean, this is a question which is very like, a general question, but how much time does this kind of process really takes?
See, it depends on the committee how much time they will take, but I think within this coming winter session, which is going to start on 23rd of November and will go on up in December also, I think within this winter session, that bill with necessary amendments will come, and the government will take decision in that session only.
Yeah, the Prime Minister also in his address, talked about how sincerely and honestly the government reached out to farmers, trying to explain what the amendments are, what these 3 new farm laws are. But really there was a small chunk of farmers, a small segment, which was protesting against it. And therefore the Prime Minister said that dissent is something that we value, even if it is a small chunk, we will take you together. And जैसे आपने बोला, सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास लेकर चलेंगे सामने.
Yes, प्रधानमंत्री जी का ये जो नारा है वो उन्होंने इम्प्लीमेंट करके दिखाया है. उन्होंने डिक्टेटरशिप नहीं की. He could have implemented even without taking others into consideration, without involving other people. But since he says सबका साथ, that is why he has formed a committee, and that committee will give its findings, and considering the benefit of all concerned, they will do amendments.
And Dr. Gupta, this kind of committee consists only of government representatives, ministries, or do we have, agricultural experts and other experts from such fields as well?
Definitely all those who are concerned with this issue and those who can give good inputs, they will be taken into this committee, and then this committee will give its findings and decisions, and that will be placed on the floor of the House, and then that will be those amendments will come into the bill, and then it will be implemented.
Right, Dr. Rakesh Gupta, thanks very much for joining us and helping us understand how these 3 farm laws will be repealed. The chairman of the Parliamentary Forum there, Mr. Rakesh there, explaining to us that this might take some time, but it will go through a proper constitutional procedure to repeal the 3 farm laws that Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced a short while back. In fact, at 9 o'clock in the morning, he made an address to the nation where he made this big announcement that despite the government's transparent, honest and sincere efforts to reach out to every segment of the farming community across the country, there still remains a chunk, a segment of farmers that are not satisfied with the farm laws that the government had brought in, and therefore to value their opinion, to honor the dissent that they still have in the whole democratic process, the government has decided to repeal the 3 farm laws. He also, of course, talked about the zero budget economy. Samriddhi.
Right, Shreya, there's a major announcement there by the Prime Minister this morning, and not only the repealing of the farm laws, he's also in fact made another important decision, an announcement about bringing in natural farming into practice, and how it's going to be so environment friendly and give us more output with less input. Let's listen in once again the Prime Minister's address from this morning, where he's made these 2 major announcements.
हमने 3 कृषि कानूनों को वापस लेने का, रिपील करने का निर्णय लिया है. इस महीने के अंत में शुरू होने जा रहे संसद सत्र में, इसी महीने में, हम 3 कृषि कानूनों को रिपील करने की संवैधानिक प्रक्रिया को पूरा कर देंगे. साथियों, मैं आज अपने सभी आंदोलनरत किसान साथियों से आग्रह कर रहा हूं, आज गुरु पर्व का पवित्र दिन है. अब आप अपने अपने घर लौटे, अपने खेत में लौटे, अपने परिवार के बीच लौटे. आइए एक नई शुरुआत करते हैं, नए सिरे से आगे बढ़ते हैं. देश के छोटे किसानों की चुनौतियों को दूर करने के लिए हमने बीज, बीमा, बाजार और बचत, इन सभी पर चौतरफा काम किया. सरकार ने अच्छी क्वालिटी के बीज के साथ ही किसानों को नीम कोटेड यूरिया, सॉइल हेल्थ कार्ड, माइक्रो इरिगेशन जैसी सुविधाओं से भी जोड़ा. हमने 22 करोड़ सॉइल हेल्थ कार्ड किसानों को दिए और इस वैज्ञानिक अभियान के कारण एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन भी बढ़ा। आज ही सरकार ने कृषि क्षेत्र से जुड़ा एक और अहम फैसला लिया है। जीरो बजट खेती यानी प्राकृतिक खेती को बढ़ावा देने के लिए देश की बदलती आवश्यकताओं को ध्यान में रखकर क्रॉप पैटर्न को वैज्ञानिक तरीके से बदलने के लिए एमएसपी को और अधिक प्रभावी और पारदर्शी बनाने के लिए ऐसे सभी विषयों पर भविष्य को ध्यान में रखते हुए निर्णय लेने के लिए एक कमेटी का गठन किया जाएगा। इस कमेटी में केंद्र सरकार, राज्य सरकारों के प्रतिनिधि होंगे, किसान होंगे, कृषि वैज्ञानिक होंगे, कृषि अर्थशास्त्री होंगे। साथियों, हमारी सरकार किसानों के हित में काम करती रही है और आगे भी करती रहेगी।
And that was the Prime Minister making those two major announcements this morning in his address to the nation. Now, after Haryana Minister Anil Vij, now senior BJP leader from Punjab, Manoranjan Kalia, has urged farmers sitting on the protest to return home. Let's listen in.
कृषि कानूनों को प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने रद्द करने का ऐलान किया और इससे ये पता चलता है कि प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी जहां एक निर्णायक व्यक्तित्व के मालिक हैं और इस व्यक्तित्व में एक ऐसा दिल धड़कता है जो गरीबों के लिए है, किसानों के लिए है। जब उन्हें लगा कि कृषि कानून जो है वो किसान भाई नहीं चाहते हैं तो उन्होंने अपना ही निर्णय रद्द करने से गुरेज नहीं किया। किसान भाइयों को बधाई देता हूं कि अब हमें सभी को जो है जुट जाना चाहिए इस देश को आगे ले जाने के लिए और जल्द ऐसा काम करना चाहिए कि श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में ये भारत देश परम वैभव तक पहुंचे।
Well, senior BJP leader from Punjab there, Manoranjan Kalia, urging farmers to return home. Arun continues to join us, our colleague. Arun, leaders across party lines and of course the Prime Minister, led by the Prime Minister, they are urging farmers to return home because now whatever they were protesting against has been decided to be withdrawn, to be repealed in the Parliament. But the Prime Minister also talked about the small farmers and how the government focuses a lot of importance on these small farmers across the country. And various schemes that the government has taken out, be it Fasal Bima Yojana, the strengthening of Fasal Bima Yojana, or soil health cards, or micro irrigation, or even providing better quality seeds. These have been various steps that the government has taken over the past few years to double farmers' income and of course to focus more and more on the welfare of farmers. So the Prime Minister really giving out a strong signal, a strong message there in his address that you had this dissent, we value it, we honor it, and therefore we repeal these farm laws, but our focus remains on your welfare and therefore we will keep taking steps for your prosperity.
Absolutely, and various farmers association they have tweeted, they have come out and now said that they welcome this move by Prime Minister Narendra Modi of repealing the act. Now it also shows that how Prime Minister Narendra Modi's commitment towards the farmers and specifically small farmers is there. These three farm laws were in a sense was lauded by various think tanks, various institutions, that it was reformist in nature. It will ensure that how can small farmers' income will be doubled. It will create a better ecosystem in our country. It will ensure that how can small farmers can also get in contract with big corporate players and can produce accordingly, and of course get a major push in their agriculture income. But interestingly, a small section of the farmers in our country, specifically from Punjab, Haryana side, they were not in favor of these three farm bills because they had their own apprehensions. Now there was also political, political players that were playing games as far as this farm movement is concerned in diverting the minds of the farmers. But all said and clear, Prime Minister said that even if a small segment of farmers, if they are not happy with the farm laws, he is ready to repeal these farm laws. And therefore, in the upcoming Parliament session, of course, the bill will be introduced, and of course, this will be passed in the Parliament. So the executives and the legislatives in our country, they design a bill, they pass a bill. The idea behind the executives and legislatives in our country is that how can a better law can be provided for this certain community. And if in case the certain section in that community, if he or she is not happy, the farm laws then finally are being repealed by the government. So big announcement by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And of course, in the last 7 years, as you rightly mentioned, Shreya, various initiatives have been taken. 22 crore soil health cards. Now, these soil health cards were the demand by the farmers, small farmers specifically, who could not test the health of the soil. What to grow, when to grow, what pattern should be adopted as far as crops are concerned, rotation of the crops in their farmland. All these were the basic concerns. There was no farming literacy in our country. But the government in the last 7 years ensured that how farming literacy can be created. Even in the budget, the Kisan channel was announced by the government. If you look at the budget coming into the power after 2014, it was announced that there should be a Kisan television that ensures providing literacy related to agriculture sector. So agricultural literacy was also the part of the government's initiative that ensured that how can farmers be educated as to what crop pattern should be adopted. Why not to grow cash crops? Because there are various cash crops that should be grown. Farmers were indulged in growing all traditional crops, but they were not getting involved into the cash crops mechanism. So they were literated for that aspect. How can cash crops should be grown? How there should be crop rotation should be there. It should not happen that the farmer who is growing potato should always start growing potatoes every time. There should be proper churning of the crops, rotation of the crops should be done so that the soil becomes much more productive in nature. And per drop, more crop was the initial slogan of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, even when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. So soil health card, that was a really game changer in ensuring the health of the soil, number one. Number two, irrigation. The drip irrigation concept that was introduced in Gujarat when Prime Minister Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Right. So drip irrigation was the concept, and he again introduced at the national level. So various initiatives have been taken by the Prime Minister that ensures how to empower the small farmers in our country.
All right, Arun, just before we wrap up this special broadcast, also, besides the farmers' welfare and the prosperity of the farmers, that of course is the focus here. Also, the protests by the farmers were being misused, were being exploited by vested interests who posed a threat to India's national security. So really, government also taking a stand towards that it's fine, we will repeal these farm laws, but let's not let vested interests pose a threat to our national security.
So vested interest, majorly political parties, because of their vested interest, the middlemen who were at the losing stake as far as these farm laws are concerned, the political parties try to take mileage from these laws. Fake news were created. This fact when the protest was at its peaks. We saw how fake news were created. The farmers were misguided during these farm laws when it was introduced. The farmers were told that MSP will be abolished by the government. Although on one side, MSP is a major component. If you look at it today, even MSP is a big issue today. So the farmers were misguided that the MSP will be abolished. But on the other side, government on various platforms committed this point. Government in various meetings with the various stakeholders committed this point that the MSP is going to stay. And in last 1.5 years, we have seen the minimum support prices increased gradually over the period of time. The procurement done by the government has seen a record procurement by the government. So yes, there was a vested interest, but as Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly said, the right form when he came to power in 2014, his approach is pro-poor, pro-farmer. And in that context, when he's talking about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, even if this small segment of the farmers, if they are misguided, even if the small, government tried their best to ensure that a farming literacy can be created. They can be made aware about the international best practices. They can be made aware of the fact that if other parts of the country's farmers are getting benefit, why can't you? But yes, nonetheless, the idea is that if a small segment of the farmers are not happy, government taking this bold move, Prime Minister Narendra Modi coming out from front and clearly announcing that the laws will be repealed in the upcoming session of the Parliament.
Right.
Right. Thank you, Arun, for joining us on this broadcast and sharing with us those latest updates. We'd also like to thank Dr. Vishen Das for sharing with us his insights on this matter. Two major announcements by Prime Minister Modi this morning in his address to the nation. Number one, the 3 farm laws will now be repealed and the process starts in the winter session of the Parliament. And the second one, that natural farming practices will now be in fact encouraged for more output in less input. News continues on DD India. Do keep watching.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.